2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Chiefs fans. Welcome to Chiefs Central Radio. I'm your host, as always, Jason Seibel, and with me, my good friend, my partner in crime, my co-host up in the Great Pacific Northwest, Chris Kilduff. What's up, Chris?
Not much. Just happy you're live and back for the show. It feels like it's been a minute.
It has been a minute. I do have to apologize. I was on vacation for 2 weeks, back to my homeland, back to Montana, and thought we were going to be able to do the show, but just with everything going on, and I was up in the mountains with my grandparents and kind of thing, and yeah, not good internet access, not conducive to doing a podcast the way we like to do it. So glad it was during the preseason, not during the regular season. So, but I am alive. I am back in civilization, back where there's internet. So we are good. How are you, my friend?
Good. It was funny because I felt like you're out of touch because every time I text you some news, you'd be like, "What? What's going on? I don't know."
It's very true. My phone did not move. It was in 3G the whole time. I mean, if that tells you anything, I don't even think they have 4G in Montana yet. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I wasn't getting the tweets, wasn't getting anything. But it was a good 2-month break. Got to visit with some family and do some stuff. So, but I did get to watch the final preseason games for what they were, and I am ready for the regular season to start, as I'm sure are you.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the big thing with me is I'm like, okay, we've really seen what these guys can do. They figured out the rosters, and the thing about the Chiefs, and it's kind of been this way for a long time, is we've never been one of those teams with a lot of depth. So sometimes watching those preseason games is pretty painful because when you see, the non-starters in, you're going, oh man, but then you realize you have to come to light that, okay, our team's not going to always be looking like this. We have a lot more talent that's actually being displayed out there.
And it's true. I mean, that is one thing about the preseason, but I would be remiss to not say that I am concerned for this season after watching the preseason. The number one offense did not score a touchdown through the entire 4 preseason games. That's concerning to me, especially the way that this offense finished, where they were so hot. I mean, even into that playoff game, and we can rehash that all we want to, but it's concerning. Are you concerned?
Sure. I mean, I think you'd be retarded not to be, but also you got to realize, with us, I mean, how many snaps did Jamal Charles take? I mean,
I think it was less than 10, to be honest with you.
Yeah, through the entire preseason, and like we've said over and over again, I mean, he is the majority of our offense, and even when he's not the guy getting the ball, he's the guy threatening getting the ball, which is opening other people up. So when you don't have somebody like that on your team, I mean, it's like the Vikings not having Adrian Peterson. I mean, when you don't have that person on your team that makes your team a standout, it's more than one way that it affects your team. And, I think that also is a big issue. So I'm hoping that helps in the regular season.
And I agree with you. However, the Vikings without Adrian Peterson still beat the Chiefs by like 20 points in the preseason. I mean, Matt Castle throws a 80-yard touchdown on us. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that when the guy, he comes back into Arrowhead and he just, yeah. I mean, that was.
But I also, if you're gonna be a Chiefs fan, you're going to come to the realization over, the past years, the big players are going to be what gets us. I'm not planning on coming into this season. I know we're going to be watching the first couple games, and we're going to get 80-yard touchdowns thrown against us. That's what happens to our team. I mean, we've never been able to stop a lot of those deep throws, and those are going to be there. I think that we're, I don't think we've done anything to remedy that, but I just think we're going to look better than we did in the preseason. I'll give you that.
I hope so. I really do, because I am pessimistic, and you've known me for a long time as both a football fan and a Chiefs fan, and this is the first year where I have to say that I'm I'm a little worried. But talking about what you just said about not being able to stop the big plays or done anything, I got to say that probably one of my biggest where I raised my eyebrow the most at the cuts that were made as the preseason kind of came to an end was the cut of Malcolm Bronson, the free safety that really, I mean, had played well. He had the one pick six in the first game, and then had a couple more, real near misses for interceptions. Did you have any kind of big surprises where you were like, wow, that guy got cut?
Well, as you know, I've been an advocate for suck up, so when that actually did come down the line, I immediately texted you, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, we'd talked about it on the show a few times where we're like, hey, this Santos kid has a chance, and sure enough, man, like, it's hard for me to watch any player who is a very quality player that doesn't do anything to get cut still get cut. Like, that's rough, because I'm like, man, like, Suckup was a legit kicker. Like, he never really did us wrong.
Yeah, the only thing that Suckup had going against him was the cap that he was taking up, and he had I don't think Santos is a better kicker. I don't think that by any means, and we don't really know what kind of kicker Santos is because he hasn't played an actual real, live snap. He's only played in preseason. So I don't think he's a better kicker, but I think he's probably going to be about the same. And that being said, when he comes at a discount of however much the discount was, and the Chiefs needed the cap room for obvious reasons that we'll talk about in just a second. I mean, it's one of those things where that's where, and we talked about it with Flowers, and we've talked about it with other players. That's where the business aspect comes into it. So yeah, I know you were pulling for old Mr. Irrelevant Ryan Suckup to make the roster, but
hey, but it's mostly just because he's really consistent. If Santos can come in and put up that same kind of consistency where he's only missing 2 or 3 field goals a year, then see you Suckup. Like that's what that's cool. Like, but I'm worried that a consistent kicker like that isn't exactly the simplest thing to go pick off the streets.
No, you're right, and we will see Suckup on Sunday when he comes back to Arrowhead Week 1 because he signed with the Tennessee Titans, who have quickly become Kansas City South with McCluster down there now Suckup. So,
and then both special teams players. So we're gonna see Dex returning kicks and Suckup kicking them. So
yeah, I actually think McCluster is their starting running back.
It just matters what you define as starting.
Well,
Bishop Sankey's going to get the most snaps there out of that entire team.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. But at least Madden 15 thinks that McCluster's the starting running back. They try to have him run all over me on my franchise. So
Madden 15 also has linebackers getting abducted by aliens up in the air. Have you had that happen yet?
No, I haven't. But I just got it yesterday. So
I've had a few times where I've been just going to go run the ball, and then the middle linebacker on the defense just gets abducted by aliens and just shoots up the top of the screen. I don't they've been having some weird little. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. Just all of a sudden he floats up in the air and just goes up into Alienville. So who knows?
They've been making Madden games for how long and they haven't figured it out? I don't know. The worst, and I'm going to say this, and then we're going to get back on topic because we got a lot of stuff to talk about in crime into an hour. The thing I still to this day hate about Madden is how the middle linebackers all seem to have about a 7.5-foot vertical when you try to throw a pass across the middle, and it's like, you've got Luke Kuechly like literally jumping 7 feet in the air to catch your pass, and it's like, come on, man. I mean,
that hasn't
fixed this. No, it hasn't. In 20 years, it hasn't changed. So, anyway, still fun though. Still buy it every year, even if it is just for a roster update. I still buy it every year. All right. So obviously, the preseason is come to an end. The Chiefs had some injuries, but nothing that seems to be too long term. I think Joe Mays is about the worst that they got at the middle linebacker that was kind of slotted to start next to Derek Johnson. Ripped some tendons in his wrist, sacking Cam Newton. Which kind of adds to that whole Superman persona, but we won't go up there. But they placed him on short-term IR today, which means that they can have him back week 6. Or week 6 is when he is allowed to come back from the short-term IR, and they've got 21 days from week 6 to decide if they want to actually bring him back or not. So that is good news, because I thought he played really well in the preseason. He really excited me the way that he was playing.
Yeah. We talked a lot about bad stuff in the preseason. The one thing that I do want to add before we get off preseason altogether is, even though we played not so well in certain areas, I really felt there was a better play calling going on. I saw the Chiefs go for it a lot more than I did all year last year, just this preseason. I think that's beneficial for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the one thing about the preseason that you got to kind of take with a grain of salt, is the fact that the coaches are going to manufacture, and Andy Reid is going to manufacture some situations that he wants to look at in a game-type situation. One of the examples I can think of is, people were like, wow, Santos doesn't have a very big boot off the tee kicking off the ball. He's only kicking it to the 5-yard line. Well, that's true, but Reid actually said in an interview that the reason that was happening is because they wanted to see kick coverages. That they told him specifically not to kick it out of the back of the end zone. When they didn't tell him to kick it short, he was kicking it out of the back of the end zone. So there's an example of the coaches manufacturing a situation that they wanted to see. The play calling is exactly the same thing, and offense and defense. Sutton was dialing up some crazy blitz packages. I think the top sack getter in the preseason was the slot cornerback, Owens, the new kid Owens from Atlanta. I mean, that kid had like 3 sacks, and as a cornerback, just based off of how Sutton was trying to move his pieces around. So, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I didn't see what I wanted to see in preseason, but at the same time, I understand. I understand how it works. I still would have liked to see the ones put it in the end zone. Excited about Kelce, though. How can you not be watching the preseason and how he played?
Yeah, it's someone like that where you're like, okay, we need someone like that to come along. We need one of those playmakers, especially someone like him who's proved that he can do the, run after the catch type thing. That's so dangerous. Bo had showed flashes like that early in the career and has kind of really jumped away from it. But, if we can get that going and have a couple people like that, that's scary.
Well, yeah, it is scary. And if he can be, last year, when the Chiefs drafted Kelce, they made comparisons, they being NFL Network or whoever. He's a Gronkowski clone, he's a Jimmy Graham clone, and Chiefs fans are salivating at that thought of having their very own Jimmy Graham. The last guy that they had that was anything like that was was Tony G, and we never got to see it. The one play that he had the chance to make last year in the preseason, he dropped a pass from Tyler Bray that would have been a touchdown, and then he busts up his knee, and that's that. Now, we've got a 6'5", 260-pound tight end who's outrunning defensive backs. I got it that they're the second and third team guys, but these are still 4'5", 40 guys that are, that he outran. He outran the entire defense, not once but twice. It wasn't a fluke. It absolutely wasn't a fluke. So.
And some shocking news while we're on the tight end subject. Over in the Bills camp over in Buffalo, Tony Moeaki's hurt.
And, you said shocking. Yeah. I was waiting for something.
That's some real shocking developments over in Buffalo that Moeaki is not going to be playing because he is hurt.
Wow, that's. I feel for that guy because I really, really thought he was going to be the guy. When they drafted him, and I think we talked about this before, but when they drafted him and he made that one-handed catch against San Francisco, and I was just like, yes!
Hype train!
Yeah, I know. And that was it. That was all we got.
But yeah, you only have a shot to be good if you stay healthy, man. That's rough.
It's true. And then, when Kelce went down last year, everybody immediately made the comparison, and here's another Moeaki. But, so far, and I'll knock on wood right here, the guy's, he's looking good, he's looking healthy, I think our tight ends are going to be huge this year. I think the Chiefs' tight ends are going to be huge. Alex Smith is a fan of tight ends. He likes throwing to his tight ends. We saw that when he was in San Francisco. His favorite target was Vernon Davis. and the fact that he's going to have a couple of guys that he can really target, especially since he's going to be a Chief for the next 4 years. And of course, there's one of my classic segues. I'm talking about the contract extension that was announced. And I actually saw it drive. We were driving home from Montana, and I let my wife drive. I don't usually let her drive on road trips. I'm kind of a control freak like that. But the eyes were tired, and I had to let her take over for a little bit. And I was just scrolling through the phone, and I see these guys tweeting out, "Hey, if this Alex Smith contract extension is legit, Twitter's going to go nuts, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "What? Contract?" Nobody that was anybody was reporting anything. There was no Schefters, no Locke and Foras. There was no, none of the guys, Ian Rappaport's, nobody was reporting it. It was just some random dude that was reporting it. And then all of a sudden,
Jim was reporting it.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it blows up, and here's the news. It's breaking. My phone's going crazy. You're texting me. I called it. 4 years. I called it. So.
I like it when I make something. I have physical proof when I make a proof of that, and when they say something right.
I know, it's true. No, it's nice. I mean, what'd you think about the contract? Four-year extension, $68 million, $45 guaranteed. Allegedly, he got $30 million up front, $15 guaranteed next year as long as he's not injured. You like it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I was hoping for. I think it's good for him. And it's good for us. The way it's structured really kind of actually is still team friendly for us, short term. I mean, longer term, if we want to keep him around and he proves that he's good, then, I mean, yeah, we're going to pay the kid. But, the way it's structured, I mean, he had the big sign, I think it's like an $18 million signing bonus. And, so we got, that chunk up front. But then we have the option, if he doesn't perform this year, a lot of that guaranteed money doesn't happen until we re-sign him on through 2015. I mean, not a re-sign, but keep him on through 2015. So
yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's smart in a lot of ways. And folks who've listened to the show, they know I've been a Smith supporter, since day one. I liked him in San Francisco, and talking about you've got proof when you call it. There's a post out there where I commented on a blog, right after the Niners lost the Super Bowl to Baltimore, saying I would love to see Alex Smith come to Kansas City, and then 3 months later, what happens? Alex Smith comes to Kansas City. So there's my crystal ball moment. But the
thing, it's just, I don't know. Alex Smith gets a lot of flack, and I mean, this is going to be a year for him to prove himself. But the guy's done a lot. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. He has one of the highest win ratios out of all the quarterbacks. No matter where he's at, San Francisco or Kansas City or wherever. His quarterback rating since 2011, he's like number 3 out of everybody. He's higher than all those guys. He's higher than Stafford and Dalton and Flacco and all those guys that have higher contracts than him. So I mean, it's the only guys above him are Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. So I mean, that's pretty good fucking company.
Yeah, Rodgers. But still.
Rodgers, yeah.
But still, I mean, it's like, I don't know. Like I said, it was a good deal. I'm glad it got done. I hope that by it being to the point where it's not going to hang over his head, that he can now, not that he wasn't focused before, but I mean, it's got to, I don't want to say bug you, but you know what I mean? It's got to be had been hanging there at some point. And so now that it's done, I'm hoping that it's all football from here on out. And now that frees the Chiefs up to use the franchise tag on Houston, because they're obviously still quite a ways apart. So at least Houston is guaranteed to play with the Chiefs one more season after this. So hopefully they can figure out a deal there. But so the Smith deal is done. Preseason's over. Now it is time. It is time for real football. And it starts Sunday. Well, I mean, the NFL season starts in 2 days. It's Tuesday night as we record this. Yeah, it's Tuesday night as we record this. You probably listen to it on a Wednesday. Thursday night is a real games that count in the record books, Seattle and Green Bay. But the Chiefs don't play till Sunday, noon Central. 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific.
What a game! What a game to start the season. Seahawks and Green Bay Thursday night. Man.
Yeah, it's a good schedule. It really, I mean, it was good scheduling. You know, what are they calling it? The Fail Mary rematch. So.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. We actually, a big group of my buddies are going to go out. You remember Garland Theater here? That's a big kind of theater that they remade that used to just be like an old-timey dollar theater, and they've got like beer and food and stuff there now, and so they're opening it up down there for free, and so we're going to go mob down there and watch the game.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, it's gonna be a good time. I'm gonna be on the road for work, so I'll get to watch it wherever I'm at. So no, I'm excited. I mean, it's back. But before we
through a Macy's window.
Yeah. Before we waste, or not waste, but spend too much time previewing week 1, let's just really quick, because with the couple of missed shows while I was gone, we didn't get the chance to do it. Pre-week 1, I want to hear your prediction. What's your prediction for this team as far as a final record this year?
Well, I think that a lot of it is going to come down to a couple key games. I think it's pretty clear that we still aren't at the caliber we need to be to beat some of these elite teams that we have on our schedule this year. Just like I predicted last year, I'm going to go ahead again and say that we'll probably lose to the Broncos both times again this season, barring Manning goes down or something like that. I see that. I see we'll probably split with San Diego. That seems to be. I don't think we're gonna have an issue with the Raiders this year. I think we got the Raiders beat. I think Raiders are going to be struggling. But sometimes it's just some of those key games. I think a couple real key games for us are going to be the Cardinals game and the Steelers game that are both towards the end of the season. Depending, I think Cardinals could really go either way this year because they are showing flashes of being really good. Carson Palmer has looked amazing this preseason. They have a great defense that we all know about, but they've had some key injuries there. So it kind of matters if people are back and they're healthier towards the end of the year. But depending on how that Cardinals and Steelers game goes, I'm saying we're going to go 9-7 or 10-6.
Okay. I'm actually looking towards the front of the schedule. The first 5 games for the Chiefs are going to be crucial, I think.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at, you open with Tennessee at home, then you go to Denver, in Denver, then you come home. I'm sorry, then you go San Francisco, San Francisco.
Broncos, Dolphins, Patriots, 49ers.
Broncos, Dolphins. Okay, so yeah, and Dolphins is in Miami, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you go from Denver to Miami, and then Patriots on a Monday night game, and then 49ers at their new stadium. If the Chiefs can somehow manage to come through that with a 3-2 record, then they might possibly have a chance at doing something. If they can come out of that 5-game stretch with 3 wins, then they'll have a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that completely. I just have it in my record. I have them coming out of that 2-3. I have them winning the Titans and the Dolphins, and then losing Broncos, Patriots, 49ers. So, but on the backside, then after that, after the bye, we don't have a hard schedule at all, really. Chargers, Rams, Jets, Bills, those are all very winnable games.
Yeah, I think that they could go on a winning streak there. I think that they could probably knock down 4 in a row there. And if they come out 3-2, that makes them 7-2, sitting real good.
I mean, that Chargers game is the away game, so I mean that probably hurt a little, but as someone we're familiar with, Chargers, it always seems like they're one of those teams where we kind of can split with them. Sometimes they get the better in us, sometimes we get the better into them, and depending on, in my opinion, if we're going to split, which game we split with, I think you're right. We could definitely go on a little winning streak there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm pretty close to you. the optimistic side of me says that we finish with the same record as last year, 11-5. That's being optimistic, I think. I think that's probably the ceiling for this team is 11-5. You know, we may not win 8 games this year. I mean,
I mean, like I said, a couple of those key games, like I said, like Steelers, Cardinals, man, maybe Jets, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I can't see us losing to the Rams with now that they don't have Bradford, and I can't see us losing to the Bills with how horrible they've looked. I mean, I think we're gonna that middle of the schedule is gonna really help us in the long term.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I could definitely see, yeah, the Bills, the Rams. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, 11-5 is the ceiling. I'm not with a lot of folks where the sky is falling. I'm not running around like Chicken Little right now. You know, we didn't score. You know, I said we didn't score a touchdown, and that makes me nervous. Dwayne Bowe is suspended for the first game of the season, which doesn't make me very nervous because, you know, it's the Tennessee Titans and Jamal Charles is playing. Donald Stevenson being suspended for the first 4 games of the season, that makes me a little bit nervous because this offensive line needs all the help it can get because it's scary right now.
It's rough, but you know the thing is I think they know that. You know, Andy Reid is smart enough to know, okay, we're not going to have time to have Alex Smith do a 5-step drop and go to his third, you know, option. You know, so
yeah.
You know, we have a team that's, you know, luckily we have a team with great speed, and we're going to use a lot of that. You know, we're going to use the screen a lot this year. We're going to use slants a lot this year. You know, I think that he's going to be well aware of that, and we're going to try and use some of it to our advantage.
And you know, last year, this is what gives me hope. This is what gives me hope. Last year, who was our starting offensive line? It was Albert, Allen, Hudson, Asamoah, then Schwartz at the right guard position, and then Fisher at right tackle. Okay, Fisher was a rookie. Asamoah had been there for a little bit, but Schwartz was a new guy. So you had 2 guys that were kind of starting out new. You know, Albert got hurt. Stevenson comes in. So you had a lot of the same issues with last year's offensive line, and you could say what you want. Brandon Albert's a better left tackle than Fisher. I don't know. I mean, you know, my point being, while the team was figuring everything out, they were still winning.
Yeah.
And if they can figure out a way to do it this year, probably not going to have a 9-0 start, not when you're playing Denver in Denver week 2. But as you pointed out to me right before the show started, that game got a little bit more attainable here about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago with the announcement that Wes Welker was suspended the first 4 games of the season for performance-enhancing drugs. Kind of interesting. I don't know what he might have been taking. Usually there's such a long list of banned substances in the NFL, there's really no telling what substance he popped for if it was, you know, but very interesting indeed. So he's out, which...
And the other side of things, like this, you know, it has to do with the Broncos game, but that 49ers game, they've got a half dozen people that are going to be missing the first 6 games of the season.
Their monster defense is no longer a monster defense. When you figure Aldon Smith is out for the first 9 games. What's this guy, Ray McDonald, the guy that beat his pregnant fiance this past weekend? He may not even be a 49er. The coach Harbaugh came out today and said we have no room for that on our team, and you know.
Yeah, and then Bowman is hurt.
And Bowman is still out. So yeah, that 49ers defense that looked so daunting, you know, when the schedule was released, is not the same defense that, you know. But it's going to be up to the Chiefs' offense whether they can put points on the board. I mean, they've got to take advantage of that when they can. You know, and it all starts this week with Tennessee, with the Tennessee Titans, who last year the team had a little bit of trouble with. They played them last year, made it interesting. You know, Fitzy running in a touchdown and doing a little flip job to Chris Johnson, who runs one, which neither of those guys are on the team this year. So That helps, I guess. And they know
Yeah.
McCluster.
There's a few people, the Titans kind of cleared house. I mean, they don't have Chris Johnson, so they're starting over from scratch at running back. They don't have Kenny Britt, who was their number one, even though he never really fully performed for him. And they lost their main pass rusher, Altron Werner. So, I mean, they're kind of starting, they got a brand new coach, Wisenhunt, a whole new system there. So, I mean, they're kind of starting over from scratch over there.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that this game is a win. I really do. I think that it's and hopefully a big win. I would love to see this first game, be similar to what we saw last year. And I've heard it mentioned, on some outlets, the Chiefs didn't have a great preseason last year, and then they come into Jacksonville and beat Jacksonville 28-2. And I would love to see something similar to that this year. I would love for them to come out and just, especially because it's at home, especially because everybody's expected them to take a step back this year. I mean, Smith with his brand new contract and no Dwayne Bowe, if he could come out and just ball 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, I mean, that would be huge. That would be huge for the confidence of this team.
Yeah, week one's going to be a make or break, because if we come out and do look bad against Tennessee, then yeah, I'm jumping on that. Oh man, we're in trouble ship, because I really think Tennessee is not going to be much of a threat in the league this year.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, this will be I don't want to necessarily say make or break, but yeah, if they come out flat, the defense doesn't register a sack or a turnover. Alex Smith throws 2 interceptions like he did during that preseason game. Very uncharacteristic things is what I'm saying. If the Chiefs, don't play to what their character actually is, yeah, it could be the makings for a bad season.
We might be having to turn our show into a Kansas City Royals.
You're right. We might, because apparently they're doing really well. I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I do follow it enough to know that that there is something to cheer about in Kansas City right now that doesn't have anything to do with the Chiefs. So,
quick story while we're on that subject. My brother, as you know, is outside Kansas City as a firefighter, and my mom went down there to visit him. So 2 people in my family this week are in Kansas City, and neither of them are me. Like, what? Just ridiculous. But so my mom sends me a text that morning when she gets there, and it's a picture of the Kansas City Royals Stadium, and she's just like, thinking of you. And I'm like, Mom, this is the Royals Stadium. Like
well,
football, but it was pretty funny.
In your mom's defense, they're in the same parking lot. So yeah. Kauffman Stadium sits here, and Arrowhead's right here. So,
but that should make it easier. One has a big Kansas City logo on it, and the other one is Royals.
It's true. That's funny. It's something my mom would do. It's something. Actually, no, that's not something. My mom is a huge football fan, and she actually got to see the Chiefs in Arrowhead before I did. My brother actually used to live in Kansas City as well, and they went and saw in 2009, I think, when the Chiefs played Pittsburgh in Kansas City, and Jamal Charles ran that kick return back for the touchdown that turned the game around for them, and they won. Or maybe it was sooner. No, it was 2009, and yeah. Anyway, good stuff. They were at that game, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting as they get rolling. This first game, it's always fun. Opening weekend is always a good time, and one other thing I love about doing this show, and that I love about as we get rolling, is taking a look at the NFL Power Rankings. That come out every week on ESPN, and I sent you the rankings this week, and just curious, did you have a chance to look at those?
Yeah. I looked at them when they first put them out, and then I was looking at them here before we started recording.
What do you think?
I think it's pretty good. I mean, I think there's a couple teams that their rating's still kind of high, but I mean, I think they have Ravens and Steelers at 12 and 13, and I think both those teams are on the decline. I think you're going to see a big drop in quality from the Ravens and the Steelers this year.
I've never been high on the Ravens or the Steelers, and that just goes to show some of the bias that ESPN shows towards teams like that. But yeah, they've got the Chiefs starting out at 16, which I think is fair based off of the preseason. I'm okay with them starting out at 16. Obviously, Seahawks and Broncos are 1 and 2, which there's no big surprise there. Putting the Chargers at 11 kind of bothers me, just because I think that the Chargers and the Chiefs are much closer than 5 positions apart, and if anything, I don't necessarily think that the Chargers are better than the Chiefs at this point. But I guess we'll see. And
Chargers
then of course
have a lot of holes. I mean, they've got some great talent. I think unfortunately, for a lot of other fans out there, Keenan Allen, since he had such a good first year, has a lot of hype, and if he doesn't live up to that, there's going to be a lot of disappointed Chargers fans because you have that big first year, and then you're the dude now. You're the dude that's their number 1 receiver that's going to be the saving grace there, and I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're absolutely right, and it's definitely something to look at. I don't know, man. I don't know what kind of season the Chargers. The Chargers kind of are a lot like the Chiefs this year in that regards. Are they going to have is Phillip Rivers going to have another great year? Because much like Alex Smith had a great year last year, Rivers had a really good year. It's all going to kind of rest on his shoulders.
Rivers is going to have a good year. Rivers always has good years. The guy doesn't really have bad years, but it's just the pieces around him. I mean, they don't have a running back. They haven't had a running back since LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah.
They put so much stock in Ryan Matthews, and Ryan Matthews was going to be that guy. Ryan Matthews really reminds me. He's in the same boat to me as Sean Green, and they kept saying year after year, "Hey, this guy's going to have the big year," and he's just never shown up. And so now they're like, "Okay, well, what are we going to do?" Last year they started putting Danny Woodhead back there, but Danny Woodhead is about 3 feet tall, and doesn't he can get hidden behind some of those linemen, but he cannot be your every down back. He's great off the can catch the passes and stuff like that, but they just don't have a lot there to like really contend with like the bigger boys.
No, you're right. Danny Woodhead was, I don't think, ever intended to be the premier back in San Diego. He's just kind of a, he's that guy to kind of take some of the pressure off. But no, you're absolutely right. Ryan Matthews, I like to refer to him as a walking hamstring pull. I have very few people that I will not touch in fantasy football. Ryan Matthews is one of those. I will not draft him, no matter how good he's projected to be. Because you're only going to have him for a couple weeks and he's going to hurt himself.
Like, I think in my fantasy draft, he was projected 15th overall for running backs.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're high. There's no way. There's no way that I would ever draft that guy. So, taking a look around the AFC West, as the Chiefs are playing the Titans, obviously, and I think both of us are predicting that game to be a win. I don't want to speak for you. Are you thinking the Chiefs pull this one out?
Yeah, the Titans. Yeah.
You got a score in mind?
I didn't. I can come up with a score in my mind. I think it'll probably be something along the lines of probably 24-10, something like that.
24 to what?
24-10. Am I losing you?
I lost you.
I'm back. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It just crashed for a second or something.
No worries. Okay, so what's the score that you were predicting?
I was going to predict 24-10, I think. I think Chiefs come out. We definitely get a defensive touchdown in there somewhere. We'll put a couple offensive scores up. And then, we'll probably get a long ball. Keenan Allen will probably catch that deep pass on us or something. So, but I'll say 24-10.
24-10 Chiefs. I think I think that it's actually going to be a bit higher than that. I think that the Titans will put up a couple scores. I think that they'll probably score 17, but I think that I think the offense is going to have a huge day. I think that the Chiefs are going to put up like 38, maybe 41. I'm going to say 41 to 17 Chiefs. I'm looking. What's that?
So I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'm looking for a big day, man. I'm looking, like you said, I'm looking for, for a return touchdown, be it on a kick return, punt return, or a defensive touchdown. And I'm looking for some big offense, man. I'm looking for Smith to really just go out and go, all right, I got the contract. Now watch what I can do. I can hit Travis Kelce on that big ball. I can, some of these young receivers that you guys have no idea. Guess what? Tom Brady's not the only one that can make these no-name receivers look good. That's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, 41-17 Chiefs is what I'm calling for this game this weekend. So, but as we look around the rest of the AFC West and look at who they're playing, the first game that I'm looking at right here, the team that's ranked in the very bottom of the ESPN Power Rankings, the Oakland Raiders, playing the New York Football Jets, two dumpster fires facing off against each other. In the battle of who sucks worse. I don't even know how to pick that. I think the stadium might collapse and they'll both lose, to be honest with you.
It matters, it matters whether or not Derek Carr can, put what he's been putting in preseason into a real game, He's making a couple of those guys over there in Oakland look like superstars that haven't looked good in a long time, so.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, if worms had machine guns, the birds wouldn't mess with them too. So I guess, well, yeah. I mean, we'll see. I do find it ironic that Derek Carr stole the job from Matt Schaub, who stole the job from Derek Carr's older brother David.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Isn't that crazy?
Last night in our my other podcast, we were like, that's such a little football circle of life.
It is. It very much is. So, yeah. I don't know, man. I think the Jets win that game just by the sheer amount of how bad the Raiders are horrible. I really do. I think the Jets win this weekend, and the Raiders start 0-1. And then, of course, you got Colts at Denver, the Sunday night game.
Man, I am stoked to watch that game.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game to watch. That's going to be a fun game to watch. That's going to be a shootout, and that one's. It's always fun to watch those games. The former versus the current, or the Jedi Master versus the trainer. I don't know. I got nothing. But I mean, Andrew Luck versus Peyton Manning. It's going to be fun to watch. You think the Broncos win it though?
Yeah. I think they're hungry, and I'm scared of Denver, man. I really am. Even if it's just going to be for this 1 year, they went out and they're like, we're going to win a freaking Super Bowl. Like, they picked up, a lot of areas that they needed to pick up. They really focused on some things and brought some talent in there. I'm hoping Indy can pull it out. I'm rocking Andrew Luck in my fantasy league this year, so
very nice.
I'm really kind of banking on him and his plethora of talented wide receivers to get something done.
Well, you talk about the Denver one now. I mean, the Colts got better on offense this year, I think. They've got Reggie Wayne coming back, and they got T.Y. Hilton, who just absolutely blew up, much to the chagrin of Chiefs fans in that playoff game. But then they go bring in Hakeem Nicks, who I'm a big fan of. I mean, I think he's going to have a huge year with the Colts this year. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun one to watch. But it is in Denver. Gosh, I don't know. I think that the Broncos win it. I don't see them losing right out of the gate, but I don't know. We'll see. And then the final AFC West game is the second Monday night game. Of course, there's a Monday night doubleheader with it being the kickoff weekend. Chargers at Cardinals.
I have Cardinals winning that one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I don't.
I've been very impressed with Carson Palmer in the preseason.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch any of the Arizona games, but he's damn near looked like the best quarterback in the entire league if you just use preseason.
Wow. Well, that's some bold stuff right there, brother. I haven't gotten to see him. I might have to go back and check him out before
I
this
mean,
weekend.
Yeah, I guess yeah, truth. Okay, Russell Wilson, if you just take preseason, probably was the number one as far as stats go.
Yeah.
But otherwise, Carson Palmer really has done some impressive stuff there in the preseason. So
Well, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I mean, the Chiefs could potentially, if the Chiefs can pull out a victory, which I think is most likely against the Titans. I mean, they've got a shot to either be sitting on top of the AFC West after Week 1, or at least be tied. With just one team with the Broncos. I don't see.
yeah.
I mean, it'll be interesting. It will be interesting to see for sure. So. Yeah, that's a good look. So we've got the Week 1 matchup on the way. Football is back. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this.
No, no, this is the last little bit that you're just you're like, okay, gotta fill my time for a couple more days until you have that kickoff, and then we can finally start scheming on what's going on and how things are going to actually look, and really kind of hopefully stay away from the injury bug.
Yeah, I think that's going to be huge. I mean, I think staying away from the injury bug, not letting it bog down. And that's the thing. To me, this season is going to come down to the injury bug, and it's going to come down to how well can some of these no-name guys play. Look at our receiver core. You've got a guy named Albert Wilson, the guy's an undrafted rookie, free agent, who won his way on the roster. He is the guy that everybody hoped that Weston Dressler was going to be. Weston Dressler gets brought in this offseason from the Canadian Football League, and everybody thinks he's going to make a big splash, and what happens? He was one of the first cuts. They didn't even wait until the second round of cuts to dump him. And then here's this Albert Wilson guy, super quick, super fast, small guy. And then you've got Frankie Hammond Jr., who he had a couple plays in the preseason that were huge.
Yeah.
But got called back for penalties. And that's the other thing, penalties. The Chiefs cannot continue to have the penalties that they had in the preseason. Horrible penalties.
Yeah, and that's everybody. That's not just the Chiefs, man. Those refs are being sticklers out there, and hopefully that gets toned down a little bit for regular season. But, yeah, you got to play smart football, and, there was definitely a lot of touchdowns called back.
Yeah, it's it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing that we didn't mention that was kind of new coming down the wire is what do you think about them picking up Kurt Coleman? That guy's a pretty, the safety out of, Philadelphia. If the listeners aren't keen on it, but, he'd started a handful of games down there. Reed knows him. He knows Reed's system, and hopefully he's going to jump in there. And, that guy's no joke. He's a physical safety. He's someone like Eric Berry.
Well, he was definitely a signing because of the Eric Berry heel injury. That's similar to that injury that Flowers had with the heel, and it kind of stuck with him all year. And I think that's the fear right now. Berry obviously not playing the last 2 or 3 preseason games, and they said that he probably could have gone, but they held him out for precautionary reasons, and rightfully so. There's no need for the guy to aggravate an injury. But this guy, Kurt Coleman, I think that he was signed as definitely his insurance. But I'm excited. Anytime you get a guy that, like you said, you described him as a physical safety, that's what this team needs. They need some. I don't know. They need some of that on their defense. They fell off so hard last year on the defensive side of the ball that they need some of that physicality. So yeah, I'm down with it for sure. Anything that can happen for this team to get better. I think a lot of people after the final cuts were made were expecting Dorsey to find 6 or 7 hidden gems like he did last year when he brings in Marcus Cooper and Ron Parker and those guys. and you got to realize the reason that he was able to do that last year is the Chiefs were the worst team in the league the year before, so they had the number one waiver priority. So he had his pick of who he wanted. This year, not the case. He had the 23rd pick. So,
yeah, that's interesting too, because I was really kind of interested to see if the Chiefs were going to take a look at Champ Bailey at all. He was someone who I was really surprised. Champ Bailey's old, but I'll tell you what, like even if you were putting him back in more of a safety position or something like that, that guy can read offense. He might not be as fast as he used to be, but I guarantee he could get a roster spot.
Yeah, Champ Bailey to Kansas City is probably not one of the most popular opinions, but I'm kind of with you. I thought that maybe he was worth a look, even if it was just to say, hey, look, we're not going to play you as a cornerback, but if we drop you back into a safety type, coach on the field kind of thing. But I guess they must have wanted to go a different direction. He's free to sign with whoever he wants. He's a vested veteran. He doesn't have to sit on the waiver wire. I mean, he can go wherever. But
yeah.
I don't think Champ plays with anybody this year. I think he's going to call it a career. I really do.
Yeah, no, it's probably very possible. But I'm just always kind of interested like that. Why to see if we're at least exploring some options out there for another guy who's a free agent still, just another older guy, but is a proven guy, is Asante Samuels. He's still sitting out there, and the problem, we're just such a young team in all those positions that I really feel if we had some sort of veteran presence, it might really help us out with that struggling, secondary.
Yeah, I agree. And, I heard something interesting. I don't know if you saw my wife's post on Facebook as we were driving home. I literally listened to the NFL Network on Sirius XM radio for like 14 hours straight. The poor woman was ready to just dive out of the car at 80 miles an hour. But one thing I did not realize in regards to what you're talking about, signing veterans, if a team signs a veteran before week 1, they have to guarantee their salary for the entire year. If they wait till after the week 1 game is over and sign them at the start of week 2, then they can pay them week to week. They don't have to guarantee their salary throughout the year, which means that if you sign a guy like Champ Bailey or sign a guy like Asante Samuel after the first week, then you can keep him on the roster week to week, pay him week to week, but if you cut him, say, week 6, you don't have to pay the rest of his salary through the rest of the year.
And that, I wasn't aware of that either.
Yeah, that's the, and I consider myself to be pretty savvy on salary cap and how it all works out. So I found that very interesting. So there may be some moves after this weekend's games, that some of the stuff that we're talking about, bringing in a veteran. But the other thing that I think that they're looking at too, you got to remember the Chiefs are going to have like 12 draft picks next year. They'll have their 7 for rounds 1 through 7, plus they're gonna score a king's ransom in compensatory picks for all the free agents that they lost this year. Your Jeff Schwartzes and your Tyson Jacksons and your Dexter McCluster. So they're probably looking at having upwards of 12 draft picks next year. And decent draft picks. You figure Brandon Albert's probably going to net a 3rd rounder. McCluster will probably net a 3rd rounder. Schwartz will probably net a 3rd or a 4th rounder. Jackson a 3rd or a 4th rounder. So, yeah, they're definitely, Dorsey and Reed are I think looking at this season as let's go do the best that we can, but they're really looking towards next season as the year to really, really, really add some talent to this team in the draft.
Yeah, and that's going to just, continue us being one of the youngest teams in the league. We're going to get a lot of fresh people rebuilding and, hopefully taking people like Alex Smith and Jamal Charles and, hopefully, some of those guys and building around them. We definitely have the talent as long as we can kind of fill in some of those holes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, but they've got to, I think now they've got Smith locked up, they've got Charles locked up. I think Bo is kind of a wild card whether or not he's on this roster next year.
Yeah, it's going to matter how this year goes for sure.
Yeah, I truly believe that. I think if he catches, 80 balls for 1,200 yards and 10 or 12 touchdowns, that he's probably gonna do a lot for his case to be on the roster next year. I think if he has a season like he did last year, that they're probably going to just cut their losses and let him walk either via trade or just cut him outright. They next year they'll still have dead money against his contract, but they'll be back on the positive side. So if they cut him, they'll actually save like $5 million in cap space. I think next year he's due $14 million, 9 of it's guaranteed. So if they cut him, they've got to pay him the 9, but they'll save 5. I think is how it plays out for Bo next year. So, this is the last year that Bo is guaranteed. But actually, his money this year is not guaranteed because he got that 1-game suspension. So I don't know.
No. I saw there was some talk about us cutting him.
Well,
this year,
yeah, that's the people that just are in complete overreaction mode. That's the same people that say cut Bo are the people that are saying the Chiefs are only going to win 2 games this year. So. Yeah. You gotta. I take those people with a grain of salt. Like I love listening to what they have to say on Twitter just because it makes me laugh. But, those are the same people that said, this team is a shit show and it's going to be a shit show until they draft a quarterback. It's just you got to take it with a grain of salt. And if you're listening to the show and you're one of those people, understand that hey, I value your opinion, but I just disagree with it. I think that this is probably going to be a 7 or an 8 win team this year. Probably not what we want to see, but I think it could be an 11 win team this year. I mean, you look at last year that this team lost to the Chargers twice by a margin of like 4 points total. I mean, think about that for a second. That's the difference between 13 wins and, I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But you know what? The beautiful thing is, we don't have to wait very much longer, man. We are less than a week away. Less than a week away. So, but that's about it for tonight. I think I'm looking at the clock, and we've used pretty much all our allotted time. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Chris, one more time. You got any final thoughts? Anything you want to wrap up with?
No, I'm almost excited for next week's show, so we'll be able to break down our first game and be like, okay, this is how we absolutely dismantled the Titans. That would be a nice first addition to the show next week. So
yes, absolutely. Really going to get into our groove here and find our find our groove with the regular season. Now the preseason over, and it was preseason for us too, kind of trying to figure out this new format and new everything, but. Yeah, definitely looking forward to shooting you some texts this weekend. Now, did you get the ticket? Are you watching? Are you gonna be able to watch the game live?
Oh yeah. I have. I stream it because like what I like to do since I'm also outside of just a hardcore Chiefs fan. I'm a big time. I play fantasy football pretty competitively, and so I like to use Red Zone on my TV, and then I stream the Chiefs on my computer right in front of me. So. I kind of have multiple things going on, but yeah, I have a streaming NFL ticket that I just stream right on my laptop. It's beautiful.
Very cool. Yes. All right. So you'll have that. I'll have the Chiefs game up on the 70 inches of viewing pleasure sitting right in front of me. But I also will have other stuff going on. I'll have all the fantasy stuff pulled up because the guy that was only going to do 1 league this year somehow I got sucked into doing 3. So I'll have all of that going on. Got invited to a keeper league. Well, I played in it last year. Wasn't expecting an invite back. I got invited back. I had Charles last year in a keeper league, so I got to keep Jamal Charles. Pretty excited about that one. So
yeah. My buddy was just over here the other night doing one of his. He did it from my computer because he didn't have a computer. It was like an online draft, and he got LaShawn McCoy at pick 6 in his draft. Wow. I'm like, who are you drafting with? What kind of madness is that? I want to be in that league. Invite me in that league now.
That's a league that somebody drafts Tony Romo number 1 overall.
And that wasn't even with Jamal Charles going before him. Guy at 7 got Jamal Charles.
That's incredible. Well, yeah, to each their own. To each their own. So, well, good luck in fantasy this weekend, sir, and big good luck to the Chiefs as well. If you're listening to us, good listeners on Stitcher Radio, make sure you go in and give us a thumbs up. Same thing on iTunes, which we're also available. Make sure you're giving us a thumbs up. And if you're listening to us on our home network at ProFootballCentral.com, make sure you tweet out the show if you enjoy it. Just click the little tweet link and shoot it out. Share it with your friends. We're getting bigger, Chris. I actually did a radio interview a couple weeks ago with Yahoo Sports Radio, which was pretty cool. So they consider me like an authority on the Chiefs or something at Yahoo Sports, which I'm okay with that. So I'm definitely okay with that. But
I want to get them to consider me an authority on nachos. And see.
is there? How do you become an authority on nachos? I digress. We'll keep that one for next week. For Chris Kilduff up in Spokane, I'm Jason Seibel down in San Antonio, Texas, telling you Chiefs fans, keep it red, keep it yellow, keep it Chiefs.